Welcome to Emergency Medicine Fellowship Match Advice, sponsored by your friends at Academic Life in Emergency Medicine and its editor-in-chief, celebrating the 17th anniversary of the day when I was her senior resident, Dr. Michelle Lin from UCSF.
What? Has it really been that long? I look back on those days fondly. I'm really excited to this episode, by the way, because these are our peeps. This is like the tech nerdy ultrasound group. I love it. And speaking of nerdy, I'm looking at your whiteboard behind you. You got all these little checklists. That's pretty nerdy. I love it.
There's a lot going on in this office and in this head, Michelle. Yeah, no, I just totally dated us. I mean, maybe I've said in public before that I was Michelle's senior resident. Maybe
it was my first day out of residency. I'm like, who is this guy?
Could have gone in either direction, that career. Could have gone in either direction. All right, we have a special episode for you guys today entitled Fellowship Match Update Ultrasound, Tox, and EMS enter the National Residency Matching Program. They enter the match. And to offer their sage advice on matching to one of these fellowship programs through the formal match process, we have three outstanding ultrasound fellowship directors with us today. Dr. Jeremy Boyd making a return appearance to fellowship match advice from Vanderbilt University. Hi, Dr. Boyd.
Good to be here. Thanks, man.
Dr. Matt Fields from Kaiser Permanente Medical Center in San Diego. Hi, Matt.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me.
And Dr. Arthur Au from Thomas Jefferson University. Thanks for joining us, Arthur.
Hi, guys. Happy to be here.
All right, let's get started with our first panelist, Dr. Boyd from Vanderbilt University. And what I'd like to understand is just an overview of this radically new match process for ultrasound. I know you guys had your own sort of special gentle person's agreement with crazy phone calls and things, and now it's all been upended by the NRMP. So tell us all about it.
Well, so I'm going to start by hopefully correcting, or at least saying it's actually not that revolutionary. It shouldn't be. This actually, for many intents and purposes, should be just kind of business as usual. But the evolution of the ultrasound specialty, you're right. We used to have this match offer date, which kind of mimics the history of the main residency match with residency programs, where basically no one could make a formal offer of basically ultrasound fellowship position until a given date and time. The problem is the logistics of that got very complicated as the specialty grew. So we had multiple calls going into residents and applicants to fellowships that all happened at the exact same time on a certain day. And then each resident had a certain amount of time where they had to reply. But what happened if maybe their first ranked program, the program they wanted to go to most, wasn't the first one to reach them? And then they had to kind of do the, hey, can I call you back? Or can you just hold for a little bit? And it got a little awkward for a lot of people. And it was certainly stressful for applicants. It was definitely stressful for fellowship program directors making those calls. So our hope is that as overall ultrasound fellowships have kind of grown and developed, that this whole process is going to be a lot more streamlined, and it's going to help to prevent some of the complications that sometimes happen when, unfortunately, there are a couple people every year who don't honor their agreement to stick around and do fellowship, or there's also fellowship programs who have gone and, we just want to kind of keep everything on the up and up, have a high level of transparency, and simplify it as much as we can without adding too much chaos to the already chaotic process as it feels.
Yeah, you make a very good argument for why you should enter the formal match. And, I think about the students or residents who are going to be listening to this like 3 or 4 years from now, and they're going to be like, what are these crazy people talking about phone calls and, nonsense and gamesmanship, and all of that, will be old history. So let's talk about what's to come. What's the new reality? Absolutely. So it's NRMP Match. What's the timeline? What's the application process?
Great. So the application process has stayed the same. So applicants, for a long time, we've had the website eusfellowships.com. And so the applicants who are watching this, you've already gone through residency programs. You know that there's ERAS, where you did your whole application. That's where programs got to read about you and kind of choose who they were going to interview. So EUS Fellowships are also, it's now the SCUF, Society for Clinical Ultrasound Fellowships website.
Great name.
Now serves as the application service for all fellowships. And that's been the case for years. What's changed this year is that people now have to register for the NRMP at some point here. It's actually already active. And then in September, I believe September 16th, people can start entering their rank list. Interviews happen through SCUF and through all that interaction. The only thing that really happens through the NRMP is you submit your rank list and programs submit their rank list, and then the supercomputer in the sky or the cloud that is the NRMP makes it all happen to get the best possible outcome for the match. Timeline-wise, we've got some really important dates. So August 22nd, the match actually officially opened. So that's already happened. So programs have already kind of activated that. That's really more on the program side. For applicants, they can start submitting their rank list on September 26th. And then the last and most important date, and I love this, this works out perfectly, is Halloween. So October 31st is the rank list deadline for both programs and applicants. So that means that by the time you're ready to go out trick-or-treating on Halloween, you better have your rank list submitted. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to participate in the match. So, and then, of course, November 14th is match day at high noon Eastern time. Everybody will find out through the match software, basically by logging in, where they've matched.
And you said November 14th. What day of the week is that?
That
I didn't know this. I'm going to look up on my phone.
I believe it's
a Wednesday.
Oh, it's a Wednesday.
Wednesday, November 14th. That's good. It's conference day for most residents. We can celebrate a conference day. That's awesome. And I like that you acknowledge that Halloween is a high holiday for everyone.
Absolutely.
In our house.
Absolutely.
I request it off every year.
It's funny. I request to work it actually every night on Halloween. It has the most amazing stories year round. We talk about it. That one.
Well, that's San Francisco.
I was going to say, that sounds very San Francisco.
It's fantastic. Hey, so for those of you guys who don't remember all those dates offhand, I did quick Google it, and on the nrmp.org, here are all those dates on there. This is for 2018, by the way. I'm assuming these dates change from year to year.
Absolutely.
But these are the dates for 2018 to keep a lookout. We'll put the link up on the site.
So, and just to clarify or emphasize, I should say, you're registering for the NRMP, but there is no ERIS application. Your application is done outside of that process. We don't have to have that PTSD for our residents who are applying to ultrasound.
Amen, 100%. There is no ERAS program that's relevant for the clinical ultrasound fellowships. So clinical ultrasound fellowship applicants, they can think of the SCUF website, the SCUF application, as their analogous thing, but it's way easier. And basically, it's one big website. It has a lot of information about the organization that kind of grew out of us starting these fellowship programs and wanting to provide a centralized place where everyone can look at programs and kind of see what sets them apart, what kind of setup they have, how many machines, what the fellowship looks like, what the salary looks like, and potential benefits. They can look at all of that, and then they can just simply, once they've submitted, they upload their documents, they click on the programs they want to apply to, and they're done.
All right. And this is the same process. I mean, obviously not with SCUF, but the rest of it, same process for and timeline for TOX and for EMS.
Correct. They don't use the SCUF website to do the sort of central application, but EMS and TOX, those dates are the same. So Halloween is going to be a big time for emergency medicine fellowship applicants, I think.
As it always
and
is.
It should be.
You may be seeing a few of your residents, Michelle.
Well, God's here. All right. Well, that's awesome. That's a great yes, Michelle.
I have a question. I apologize for not having seen the site yet. And what I do like about the ERIS application is that you can actually customize an application to a particular program a little bit and in terms of the wording. I know it sounds like you have a one-to-many type process on the SCUF site, but can you customize your applications per program?
You know, I haven't double checked since I did it, but I'm pretty sure you can, because I've definitely in the past 3 years read applications that were specifically like someone talked about country boots and Western wear, which really doesn't work in a lot of other places other than Nashville. So, I mean, unless that's really how they want to be perceived in their other letters, you know, or personal statements, I'm pretty sure you can customize it. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure you can.
Okay, cool.
There's barbecue all over this country. It varies in quality, as do people's boots when they wear them.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, right. We can agree. All right. Let's, that was a great overview. Thank you, Jeremy. So we're going to switch gears and speak specifically to ultrasound. We're going to leave perhaps our TOX and EMS folks to end the podcast right now. All right. The ultrasound folks will stay with us. And, you know, I want to talk a little bit about the maturation or the professionalization of the field of emergency ultrasound. And we've got an expert on the panel to do that. Matt, Dr. Fields was or is the immediate past chair of the emergency ultrasound section for ASAP, and certainly is very well versed in where ultrasound is heading and why it is not becoming a subspecialty the way the rest of the House of Medicine views subspecialties, but has another pathway. So Matt, maybe you could tell us a little bit about what's been going on the national level for ultrasound.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. It's a great question. I think it's really no coincidence that the match process is coming around when it has, in the kind of formalization of that matching process, because right now ultrasound has been at a crossroads in going from a very informal kind of specialty to a more formalized specialty. Really for the last 20, 30 years, ultrasound has really been evolving. And that's just thanks to emergency medicine and everybody, all the pioneers that, realized how great ultrasound was. We actually kept discovering new uses for it, new applications, different ways we could use the probe. And so we kept redefining what ultrasound training was. Initially, it was looking at aortas, looking for pregnancies. And now we're looking at, lungs, and now we're looking at carotid flow and doing fluid responsiveness. So it's just been really cool to see that growth and maturation. But initially, it really felt like ultrasound fellowship wasn't as much of a fellowship as more, it almost felt like an apprenticeship, where you actually kind of seek out a mentor and you say, hey, can I work with you? And they're like, yeah, you can work with me. And you kind of just worked very closely. And there wasn't a lot of rules to it. It was just kind of like, are you good? I'm good. Great. We're good. And that was fine at the time. But then as it started to grow, there were some problems. I mean, Jeremy talks about the issues with the no offer date. Before the no offer date, it was literally you go on your interview. And I still recall when I interviewed, at the end of the interview day, I was actually just bullied by the director, like to take the position right then and there. And I hadn't even finished interviewing everywhere else. And it was very awkward conversation. And then, people, especially if you had your own internal the program that you're at, the director there trying to bully you, that could be a really big issue for people. So the no offer date first evolved thanks to the development of Society of Clinical Ultrasound Fellowships and Romulo Gaspari and Pat Hunt, starting with the no offer date. But then moving on to the match was really where we needed to go to be a legit specialty. At the same time, ultrasound itself as a specialty has suffered from not having a lack of standardization for what a graduating ultrasound fellow means. What can that fellow do? What skill set does he have or she have? And so, a parallel to the development of the match process and everything has been this process that's been going on for years to seek ACGME level accreditation or American Board of Medical Specialties recognition for our specialty, and define a set number of standards and definitions for what training in emergency ultrasound, or actually clinical ultrasound is what we refer to it now, means. And so, basically ASAP, SEM, SCUF, and now even AAM have been all involved with this. And I'm excited to say that after years of going through this, we are now, ABEM has now put in an application for a designation of focused practice, or a DFP, for emergency ultrasound or clinical ultrasound.
And the DFP, and perhaps this is the name change, so it's clinical ultrasound now. Does that mean the DFP is open to more than just emergency physicians? I would assume so, or is it just for EM?
No, actually, so the DFP is a brand new concept that ABMS has created. Traditionally, the only way for a fellowship to exist was, they now call it subspecialty certification. So that's all your fellowships before now. Your toxicology, or like even outside of emergency medicine, cardiology, all of those fellowships that exist. But they decided that there was a need to develop a different category, I guess. And that is called the designation of focused practice. And that actually only exists within your own specialty. So you can only apply for a DFP within emergency medicine if you're emergency medicine boarded. And so ultrasound would be potentially the first DFP within emergency medicine. But that creates a problem because you other specialties can't apply for it. So, for example, pediatrics can't apply for it. Yeah.
Interesting. And are there other DFPs and other specialties that serve as an example, or is this really a brand new concept at the American Board?
Yeah, there are a few. The main ones right now are hospitalist medicine. So there is a hospitalist DFP for internal medicine, and there's a hospitalist DFP for family medicine. And so internal medicine creates the rules and standards for being a hospitalist through their pathway. If you've been boarded in internal medicine and you want to get the hospitalist DFP, and if you're boarded in family medicine, there's a hospitalist DFP for that. So,
and the DFP requires you to pass a test or go through a certain amount of length of training at an accredited program. Tell us a little bit more about the specifics of that.
Yeah, so really it's kind of the same. You still have to go through an accredited program, and you have to take an exam at the end of your training. The main difference is the body that's doing that accreditation. So if you're ACGME accredited, which is that full subspecialty certification, that more traditional model I talked about, then ACGM itself is doing the accrediting of all of the programs, all the fellowships out there. And they're the overseers of standardization and making sure that every program out there is up to snuff and everything. With the DFP program, ACGME kind of contracts with another organization to do that accreditation. And in the application that ABEM put forward, they actually recommended that the Society of Clinical Ultrasound Fellowships be that accrediting body. So
go ahead.
Sorry. And so in that way, it's in some ways it's nice because it actually gives the level of control to an organization more closely tied with the programs and with ultrasound. So
this is fascinating. This is the first DFP for our specialty. I think that's really no surprise that it's coming out of ultrasound with all your shiny boxes and applications. So I think that's great. Let's learn.
Yeah, we always like to be the first and the newest, and pushing the envelope. So
hey, I used ultrasound for a shoulder dislocation the other day. And by that, I mean my senior resident did, but I was very impressed.
I was going to say, did you use the probe cord to give counter traction? Is that what you mean?
I plugged it. Come on, guys. I do my part.
No, it's great. It's great. I love it for shoulder dislocation and reduction.
That's good.
Hey, Matt, can I ask you a question about this DFP thing? Congratulations, Bob, on this designation. I feel like ultrasound as a group has really grown up and is really pioneering the future of where other groups may be able to go. But when you have these accrediting levels, it comes with some potential downsides. And can you imagine, is there ability for programs with specific strengths to customize their curriculum?
Yeah. Well, so
great boots. I don't know how you'd bring that in, but can we customize it and still get accredited?
Yeah, definitely. I definitely think there's room to have your own personality as a program and the other things you offer. I mean, prior to all of this, there was a document that was put out by ACEP called the Emergency Ultrasound Fellowship Guidelines that everybody kind of followed. It's just there was no enforcement of that. It just is, everybody is kind of the honor system. And now it's just more kind of oversight in making sure that everybody at least gets to that minimum level. Because, I mean, I really hate to say it, but there are probably some fellowships out there that I've heard of. It's nobody's fellowship on this panel, so we're all good. But that probably didn't meet those standards very well and had a very more laissez-faire kind of fellowship. So we're kind of just eliminating that, but you still have the opportunity to build on those minimum requirements and do cool things like nerve blocks, TEs, and international experiences and stuff like that. And it's not clear yet what exactly the criteria are going to look for. That's all still in development for what is going to be accreditation. So
Awesome. Yeah, it sounds like this is your first year, right? Doing it in the system?
Yeah, it's our first year. And definitely one of my concerns was just the personality of ultrasound. I mean, not being accredited kind of gave ultrasound this very more wild, wild west, rougher, kind of cool, cutting edge kind of thing. And now we're being formalized and accredited. And so it kind of feels like institutional a bit. And, but I think ultimately it's for the best, and it's where we really need to go. We can only, the wild, wild west, had to, eventually go away. And I think it's ultimately for the better of patient care and the specialty. So it's a good thing.
Well, Matt, I wanted to hear who bullied you in these interviews, and I wanted you to name names, but it seems like you're not that kind of guy. So let's move on then in our panel. And
it's not deceased or anything. He's still around. So,
there you go. What was his name?
Yeah. Arthur Au.
Yeah, all right, fine. I was trying. Did you see how I tried, Michelle? All right. Dr. Au from Thomas Jefferson. So we have heard a lot about why the New World Order exists and some of the processes around it. Let's talk strategy. That's what fellowship match advice and EM match advice are all about. It's helping applicants put their best face forward here. So what advice do you have for applicants given a new match structure? Maybe you could start there.
Yeah, luckily, I think with the new match structure and being a little bit more formalized with the match, it actually benefits the applicants a good amount. It kind of levels the playing field with what they should expect when they're looking for programs. So there's a much more level playing field. So ultimately, I feel like a lot of applicants are going to be driven by location for where they're looking and what programs they're planning to apply for. And they can really take solace in the fact that there are quality programs pretty much in every corner of the globe these days. So they shouldn't feel bound by their location. They should feel pretty comfortable applying wherever they need to try to match.
So that's an interesting question. Our particular program had to produce a ton of internal paperwork to satisfy the GME office, and I think rightly so, before they would allow us to register for the NRMP. And, it wasn't a huge bar. It was mostly administrative rather than experiential portions of the curriculum. But I mean, it was still something that we had to do. And, I suspect this DFP accreditation will be similar. Do you expect there to be some calling of the herd? Are there going to be less programs out there because of some of these changes? And in particular, this NRMP change?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say. I definitely think that emergency ultrasound in general has kind of brought everyone up to at least a baseline level at this point. So I think a lot of the kind of rogue programs that had been out there in the past have kind of either willed away already or have kind of brought themselves up to stuff. So I really don't think too many people are going to be weeded out at this point. If we actually look at the number of programs this year, it actually looks like there are a few more than there had been in the past. So
why don't you tell us a little bit about the numbers? How many programs were there last year, this year, number of positions? What does the applicant pool size look like?
Yeah, so last year, there were around 70 applicants. There are a little over 100 programs last year. This year, there's closer to 115 or so. And then several programs have multiple positions. So there are a little over 200 positions available. So it's definitely a buyer's market.
Wow. So there's more programs entering a field where there's, an ample number of unfilled spots already.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, buyer's market. So then this NRMP process should only make it better, really, for the applicants who are out there.
Yeah, it's definitely going to streamline the process for them. Luckily, it won't change the interview process too much. I think the interviews are pretty much going to be similar to the way they were running before. Perhaps the timeline of the interviews may be pushed back a little bit just as programs kind of settle in with NRMP. But otherwise, yeah, the process definitely for the day of match is going to go a lot smoother. It's going to be a lot less awkward for both the applicants and for the directors.
And do you think programs are going to be interviewing more, less?
I think it's probably going to be similar.
Similar.
Yeah, the biggest, I think, so the timeline's about the same as it had been in the past. We maybe have a few less weeks before the match list has to be finalized. So in the past, we went into November for our no offer date.
Okay.
So there's a little bit less time for interviews, but most of the times interviews kind of get snuck in before ASAP anyway. So I don't think it's going to make too much of a difference.
Yeah, and an early ASAP may actually help the process this year, just to have its first year go smoothly.
Yeah, exactly.
What other just general advice do you have for an applicant who wants to show herself or himself to be as competitive as possible for one of these positions?
Yeah, so a lot of the times your CV and your letters are going to speak for themselves. When you show up for your interview, I would definitely try to be yourself. Don't try to oversell yourself. Don't try to be someone you're not, because directors and programs are going to see through that. And really look for a program that kind of fits your personality. I think that's the biggest thing. We spend so much time with our fellows and with our divisions doing QA and working on projects that if you don't get along with the person that you're trying to match with or the program you're trying to match with, it's not going to go well.
Yeah, our section's like a little family. They're hauled away in this tiny conference room. They're constantly looking at images.
Right, hiding out in the dark room.
Yeah. I sometimes bring them chocolate. That's about as much as I interact with that room. Michelle, what questions do you have as we're sort of closing the formal portion of this panel?
Yeah, I got a lot of questions, but the main question I have is, people come up to us with questions, advising them like, oh, I'm thinking about an ultrasound fellowship. What do I do? And it sounds like you guys have this amazing website, right? It's at eusfellowships.com. It's got a starter site. It goes from like A to Z. I think this is a great place to start. But my question is kind of like for the students going into residency, they're like, how many interviews do I need to go into to kind of guarantee me a spot? And we usually recommend, maybe 10 interviews, and based on the historical data, you will get into a program. Do you have such a number to advise your residents going into ultrasound fellowships? Like, you got to do at least 3, or is that really, since it's a buyer's market, is that really not relevant?
Yeah, I can jump in on that one. I mean, I think it definitely, there's, it kind of depends a little bit. Certainly somewhere between 5 to 10, then yes, you'll probably match in a fellowship, but given that the, exactly the market of ultrasound fellowships is there are going to be unfilled spots. That being said, there are some programs that are still very competitive and very hard to get into, in some markets that are very hard to get into. You gotta, so I often want to hear what programs they're looking at, but whenever I give them that advice, certainly, some of the California market's always an interesting thing. New York has got a ton of programs, so those are always kind of special cases that are a little bit different. Obviously, and then I kind of tell them also, to reach out to fellowship directors early. I mean, you can break down some of the barriers and kind of start conversations earlier, to kind of, get a sense of that program and whether it's a match, whether it might be a match for you. Even though I was kind of saying that fellowships have evolved, you work so much with your fellowship director that being a fit, having the fellowship director be a fit for you and being somebody you can work with is so important that, the earlier you kind of recognize that, the better.
And guys, if I could also add, and this would be like advice for anybody looking at any kind of fellowship within emergency medicine, whether it's EMS, tox, ultrasound, sports medicine, whatever, is if you can go to one of the national conferences, whether it's SAM, ASAP, AAEM, or you name it, where there's some kind of interest group or like academy or what have you. And if you're able to go as a resident to one of those meetings and just kind of get a sense of like the flavor of the people there, I think that really helps. And I think I know that when I went to one of those academic conferences as like a second-year resident, like the spring, I was like, I went to the ultrasound group, and I remember like sitting next to a current mentor of mine and like a former mentor, and I was like, these are my people. And I think that's a nice way to really get a sense at a conference where you've kind of got different communities that you can kind of check out and get a sense of kind of what the personalities are of the different specialties that you're looking at.
It's good to hear they didn't bully you, Jeremy.
Oh, I got bullied. But that's like the story of my life. That's, you know, I'm wearing my contacts today, but usually I'm right with you guys in the glasses. Right. And yeah, that's the story of my life.
There you go. All right. Well, let's close our discussion of this new match process and learn about some programs. This is your chance to tell us a bit of a free commercial about your fellowship program. And we're going to start with Jeremy, who's already told us about his fellowship program on another episode. So he's going to have to try really hard to tell Michelle and I something we don't know about Vanderbilt's ultrasound program.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to try and up from the previous one. So still a great program. Ultimately, I think Vanderbilt is known for its education, and I think our ultrasound fellowship continues in that. We've grown our international opportunities within the ultrasound fellowship. We still have a residency program in Guyana, and we've actually had now our first sort of affiliated Guyanese ultrasound fellowship graduate. She'll be graduating from her fellowship coming up in a little bit. Wow. And so we've had a really cool opportunity there to develop some kind of projects, both based out of our shop, but also out of the South American shop in Guyana. And we've kind of grown the group of people who are really focused on doing that. We've also upped our research game. So we're involved in about 3 different national clinical trials looking at ultrasound in a variety of applications, primarily heart failure and B-lines, and also at some sort of health outcomes kind of situation within the VA system. So I think we've continued to be a great place for education. It's a collegiate collaborative environment. If you like music, not just country music, Nashville's a great town. It's certainly on the up and up. You can get all kinds of great food and meet great people. Go to a barber shop and sit next to some famous country music singer, you name it. And we have a good time in the department. So I highly recommend it to anyone who's interested in checking us out.
Yeah, residents, you for sure should check out Dr. Boyd's program. I have to say the reason we're even having today's panel is because he reached out on behalf of all his fellow panelists and wanted to make sure the whole residency community understood the changes to the match, and that speaks volumes about his ability to mentor on a more personal level. So check out Vanderbilt's program. And Dr. Fields, you will be our first faculty member from Kaiser San Diego, which is a very, very, very busy Kaiser hospital down in sunny San Diego, the host city of ACEP. So I'm assuming you're going to let everybody come on over and check out your office and maybe sit on that couch that's behind you there and tell us if that's what it takes.
No, I said if that's what people want to do when they're visiting San Diego, go see my office.
I hope that's let's just see what happens. Tell us something we don't know about Kaiser San Diego.
Sure. Thank you. So yeah, Kaiser San Diego is a pretty cool place. We have 2 hospitals. I would just open up a new one. So combined census of over 100,000 patients. We have plenty of pathology. We have a fully functioning, 3-year residency. It's still a young program. Just graduated the first residency, not this past year, but the year before that. So the second class, and then the fellowship is also its 3rd class of fellows. The fellowship's done very well. There's just so much opportunity for them. One of the cool things about Kaiser is just one of the largest health systems in the country, but it doesn't have much academics within it. So therefore, as being in kind of an academic program, you have access to all of these resources that other people don't use, huge databases, statisticians. So it's a great place to do research and do fellowship projects and really get a lot done. We also have a fully functioning TEE program. Our fellows work with cardiology to get trained to 20. They do a bunch in the department, do a ton of advanced ultrasound stuff like nerve blocks and everything like that. And the group is just awesome. It's just everybody's laid back. Everybody's a lot of fun. We believe in, for our interview days, a totally casual day, no suits. You definitely, otherwise, we won't interview you. You have to go back and change into something more comfortable. And probably one of the most interesting or fun things about our program is that we do a monthly journal club at La Jolla Shores Beach. So we take some articles, we all hang out. We start off usually, we surf or do whatever for an hour or so, hang out, grill, and then we dig into some articles. And so if should be a reason that, that everybody should come right there. So, but no, it's a cool place. And I think, I think a very, very awesome fellowship.
All right. Well, you clearly are leading the way for the professionalization of the specialty. And everyone on the panel is happy that you covered all of that portion of the question. Residents, check out Kaiser San Diego. Training at Kaiser Hospital is a great thing. So says the vice chair from the Stanford Kaiser program. All right. And Dr. Al, take us home. Thomas Jefferson just getting bigger and bigger. Your faculty expanding in all sorts of different ways. There's got to be much wonderful things to share about ultrasound at Thomas Jefferson.
Yeah, so ever since we cut the fat and got rid of Matt.
That's right. I was waiting for that.
Able to push him out the door and take over as the fellowship director at Jefferson.
Holding you back. I'm sorry.
That's outstanding. Thank you for that.
Things have really grown at Jefferson, not only in ultrasound, but kind of throughout the department. So we're active in telehealth now. We do a lot of CDU work. We're actually working in some urgent cares. We do a lot of design medicine, and our faculty works with the dean's office very closely. So just the amount of opportunities, not only within ultrasound, but outside of ultrasound, is what really sets us apart. We actually have 12 ultrasound fellowship trained faculty members.
Wow.
And 4 of our faculty members have actually run ultrasound divisions in the past. So we have a huge amount of knowledge within our division. We have ultrasound faculty that have actually moved out of the ultrasound realm and into health design and into medical education, into global health. So coming to Jefferson, you can really build a niche within ultrasound. As we've kind of talked about with the number of applicants and the number of programs out there, when you graduate an ultrasound fellowship, it's really important to be able to separate yourself from everyone else. And I think coming to Jefferson allows you to do that.
Gosh, I had no idea you had that many ultrasound trained faculty. I knew you had design thinking and research and medical education and simulation, but wow, that is a remarkable faculty skill set. And residents, you guys should check out TJU. Michelle, thanks for letting us have this fellowship update.
I love it. So much good sagely advice. I feel like this is a no bully era of ultrasound fellowships. I'm looking forward to it.
All right. No bullying for sure. Amen. With that, thanks to our panelists. Good luck in the match this year, you guys.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Thanks.